Okay. Good evening, Lake Forest, and welcome to the April 16, 2018 session of the Lake Forest City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
We need about 1 minute to let her get her.
They had to do a rotation.
Just have where the seat drops into the floor. We'll just have where you drop into the floor and Biddy comes up. That'd be much more
Honorable
efficient.
Mayor Lansing.
Here.
Alderman Beidler is absent. Alderman Morris.
Here?
Alderman Newman.
Here.
Alderman Rummel.
Here.
Alderman Tack.
Here.
Alderman Reisenberg is absent. Alderman Moreno.
Here.
Alderman Bushman.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is I'd like to announce that Lake County Partners, the economic development arm of Lake County, and Lake Forest City representatives will present a request this coming Wednesday morning at the Metra board meeting in Chicago to improve Metra service between Lake Forest and Chicago through schedule changes and equipment investment. This is consistent with the city's long-standing policy to improve passenger service for riders emanating to and from Lake Forest, and all towards greater economic vitality and improved home values in West Lake Forest. This meeting has nothing to do with the potential of Amtrak service or the third track proposal, strictly Metro service adjustments and some equipment modifications. That concludes my comments by the mayor. Comments by the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. With the assistance of Ms. Banks, I did want to mention to everyone about the upcoming ward meetings. Everybody should have gotten a flyer in their mail over the weekend. If you happen to discard it before reading it, we want to remind everyone Ward 2 is on Thursday, May 3rd, Ward 1, Wednesday, May 16th, Ward 4 on Thursday, May 24th, and Ward 3 on Thursday, June 7th. So these are all posted on our websites, and we hope to see a good turnout at each of the ward meetings.
No, these haven't changed, have they, Bob? In the last week?
One, which ward was it? 3 maybe changed? No? They haven't changed within the last week.
Oh, okay, because you sent
Oh,
out
maybe it
a
was-
note and I
Yeah.
just,
So, but I think Ward 3 may have gotten pushed a little later, but these have been, I think, what were mailed out and consistent with, I think, what we've polled the city council members on. And then if you could, I know Susan sent out an email last week about topics of discussion, so if you can get back to her at your earliest convenience so we can get staff working on pulling together all that information, that would be appreciated, particularly for our first one, Ward 2. That one is right around the corner, so.
I just want to point out, too, that Ward 2 is going to be at Croya, and that's a new location in the past. We've switched now the past several years. We were at Cherokee and, we were at Cherokee last year, right.
Yep.
So this is a new location, and it's kind of not something that one would normally think of for a Ward 2 gathering. So I just would like to point that out to anyone at home who's watching.
Very good. And that completes my report for this evening. Thank you, Susan.
thank you. Next, comments by council members? Alderman Bushman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to inform the public that the Action Group is going to be hosting a community forum at the Gordon Community Center next week, Wednesday, on April 25th at 7 p.m. The objective here is to better inform our community about the environmental assessment and the terrain impact that is a subject of much discussion of late. The action group did reach out to Alderman Rummel and myself because of our background in certain topics that they wanted to discuss and asked us to participate at the forum. And we'll be doing so in our individual capacities. And obviously, all the other aldermen and the mayor, everyone else is invited, besides the community, to attend again next week, Wednesday. The request was also made that we post this announcement on our website. Our website is not normally used for third-party events, but I'm wondering, because this is a matter of, a major community interest. It's a matter that we adopted a resolution at our last meeting, and wondering whether we can post this on our website, and I'm looking for a consensus of the council if this is something that they would be agreeable to or not.
Everyone all right with that? Yeah. Any opposing thoughts? Okay, well, good. Well, let's do that, for sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Please, Alderman Newman.
could we be clear, even if we have to discuss it here for a few minutes, about how the two aldermen represent themselves at this meeting? I'm in opposition of this whole idea, only because we conduct conversations about policy at city council meetings, committee meetings, executive session, and city-sponsored events. So this is a departure from that. I'm concerned about confusion from citizens about the role of our two aldermen participating in this event. So I want to make sure all the aldermen are on the same page about if these two individuals are at a table with aldermen on their name tag. I'm just concerned about perceptions here of citizens. We've had enough controversy about this issue that I don't want to give rise to more.
Well, fair question, a good question. Let me respond first. Once someone is elected a city official, there is that irreducible obligation of office and so forth. And so I think while attendance at the forum is intended to be informational and not representing other council members, not representing the mayor, not representing the city, but as individual aldermen for the purpose of information exchange and not vouching any opinion or views of other council members or any future actions of council or aldermen. In the instant case, I think that's fine as long as it's made clear that that is the case. I think it's hard, once one is elected to office, to participate in a community meeting, again, by way of sharing information, listening, and so forth, to separate themselves from being, from the fact that they are an elected official. There is that step that you take, and you just can't sort of set that aside and say, I'm here to talk as an individual, and I'll give you my individual thoughts and opinions. I think that's a bit of a stretch, because I think people who are in attendance, it's just irreducibly going to look at you as an alderman. So that's my thoughts. Other comments?
And I understand and appreciate your concerns, and certainly I know I do not, and I know Alderman Rummel does not look to hold themselves out as a spokesperson for the city, for the mayor, or for this whole council at this session. I should note that the action group reached out not only to the aldermen for comments and participation, but also to our state senator and also to our U.S. congressman. And it's my understanding they will have representatives there. And I don't think any of us would think that Senator Morrison is speaking for the Illinois State Senate, or that Congressman Schneider is anyway speaking for the U.S. House in any comments that he may share at the forum, or through his representatives. I understand they may not be able to be personally there, but representatives would be there. So it's a similar concept that I guess I'm seeing, that as an alderman, we have a role to play in communicating with our community as individual aldermen. But again, this is intended to be an informative session discussing topics that, for me specifically, it's going to be in reference to the EA process, or the process under NEPA, to be more specific. And then to highlight, as you've highlighted in the past, Mr. Mayor, the actions that we have taken, to be factual on that basis.
Right, exactly.
Mr. Mayor, you and I have had this discussion as well, and I understand where your concerns are coming from. Please be assured that we will not be holding ourselves out as aldermen, nor as spokesmen for the city in this capacity, nor will we be offering any individual opinions on the topic or prognostications on the topic. I have taken a look at what my presentation will be, and it is a summary of some of the environmental concerns that were expressed by other agencies, because I am not an environmental expert, nor would I hold myself out as such. But I do think that there is a lot of confusion in the community, and so this is disseminating information that we have received from other agencies about environmental concerns. Just concerns, not that they're the end of the world, or that they can't be mitigated, or that we approve or disapprove of them, but simply restating and sort of amalgamizing some of the letters that we've seen from agencies in reaction to the EA.
Yeah, just to build on that a little bit, I think that, number one, I happen to agree that I don't believe that just because you're reading a summary of what some other experts had to say on something, that people aren't going to perceive you as a representative of the city, and when questions arise, they will invariably expect you to answer them as a representative of the city. So I don't believe for a minute that you can sit on something like this as divorced from your role as an alderman. I also don't think comparing yourself to a federal representative is legitimate. I think it's fair for a federal representative to be on such a panel if they're present, in part because they're the federal government is the controlling authority in this matter. We have no local authority in this matter. We've established that. And I think a state representative can speak to what the state's authorities are, but we already know what our local authorities are. So I have problems with this, not because we don't support any of the views, but we've already put in writing what the city's policy on this is. We just had a city council meeting. We ratified a resolution which outlines what we've done and what we intend to do. So I'm just not sure what the role of a city representative, other than the mayor on such a panel, would be.
I just want to add one thought. I hear what the two aldermen are saying. They may not be implying any endorsement, but you can't control the mind of the attendee. If it's a resident who infers such an endorsement, then we have an issue. And that's what I would like to avoid if at all possible.
What would we be endorsing?
I don't know what the attendee might envision.
I think that it is appropriate to make a statement, as you most likely will. You both have legal backgrounds. But I do have a different view from Alderman Newman and Tack. I think it's very important for us to participate, and I'm very grateful that you have the chance to do so as individuals who are also aldermen of the city, because this is such an important point of consideration for all of us. So, for many reasons. So I'm grateful that you've been invited and that you're taking that approach, but I think it is very important when you have the chance to speak that you lay the groundwork that you are speaking as an individual. And I know that you would do that naturally.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further thoughts? Okay, hearing none, moving on to agenda business, the Finance Committee. The first item is consideration of an ordinance making a supplemental appropriation for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2017 and ending April 30th, 2018. This is a first reading, and if deemed appropriate by the council, final approval. And to introduce the subject, I call on Alderman Morris, Finance Committee Chair, and Elizabeth Hollop, Finance Director of the city.
Thank you. I'll ask the director just to comment. We just finished in the Finance Committee meeting a discussion of this ordinance. So I think there's not a lot to talk about, but if there are questions at this point, our Director Hollop is here to answer them.
Okay.
If not, I'd
We
like
did
to,
within the last half hour.
yeah,
talk about
right.
this.
I'd like to move for approval of the ordinances.
Well, first, with respect to this agenda item, is there public comment on this first item? Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, I bring it back to the council and ask for a motion to waive first reading and grant final approval of the ordinance making a supplemental appropriation for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2017, and ending April 30th, 2018. Is there a second?
I'd
Second.
like to move it. Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Morris,
Aye.
Alderman Newman,
Aye.
Alderman Rommel,
Aye.
Alderman Tack,
Aye.
Alderman Moreno,
Aye.
Alderman Bushman.
Aye.
6 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is approval of revisions to the city's pension funding policy. And Alderman Morris.
Again, in the Finance Committee meeting, we reviewed this in detail. It's going to be an ongoing process, and we'll be coming back to this multiple times in the next couple of years to review the pension forecast and the funding for the pension. But any questions for Director Hollop?
Again, we discussed this within the last 30 minutes for those on television and for those in the audience. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the revisions, the tendered revisions to the city's pension funding policy. Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Morris,
Aye.
Alderman Newman,
Aye.
Alderman Rommel,
Aye.
Alderman Tack,
Aye.
Alderman Moreno,
Aye.
Alderman Bushman.
Aye.
6 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is the opportunity for citizens to address the city council on non-agenda items. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is omnibus vote consideration. We have only 10 items tonight for our reading pleasure. For the benefit of those watching on television or who don't have the minutes in front of, or the agenda in front of them, I will quickly go through this. Of the 10, number 1, approval of the April 2nd, 2018 City Council meeting minutes. Number 2, approval to renew agreement for financial and land parcel management system software maintenance and licensing for fiscal year 2019. Approval of a resolution reallocating 2018 volume cap to the Village of Buffalo Grove, Illinois. Number 4, approval of contract with Linebarger, Goggin, Blair Sampson, LLP for collection services. Approval of contract for annual mowing services contract in the city's Parks Department for fiscal 2019 budget. Award of a contract for the City of Lake Forest to join the MPI Tree and Stump Removal Services Plan for fiscal year 2019. Approval of the Forest Park Grounds Maintenance Services Contract for fiscal year 2019. Number 8, award the Recreation Center Replacement Window Procurement Bid for 31 window units to TDS Door Company in the amount of $58,712. And number 9, award of the Lake Forest share of the joint 2018 annual pavement patching program contract. And number 10, and by no means the least, in fact, it's the most, is award of the Lake Forest share of the joint 2018 annual street resurfacing program to Peter Baker and Sons in the amount of $913,341 to include authorization to expend the remaining $86,658 for the resurfacing of additional streets. As we've done before, would anyone on council like to remove or deliberate separately on any of these items? If not, there's certainly room for some questions, if you have some, to the appropriate staff director in the city.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question on item 4, which is the contract for collection services, and this may be directed to Ms. Hall. I see where the proposal deals with, contacting the delinquent party and seeking to collect through non-litigation. Do we have much in that area of needing collection services?
For the contract, it would be mostly parking tickets or other police violations, and we also have some recreation fees and ambulance fees that would be going to collections.
Now, in the case of police tickets, if it's uncollectible, does it go back to the police department for further handling, or what?
They try multiple times to collect the outstanding tickets, and then they're forwarded to the collection agency for handling, and if they're unable to collect, they can report it back to the city.
Okay. And do we have much need to go into litigation on any of these collection items? Is that something that typically we can avoid?
From past experience, there really hasn't been any litigation because
Good.
usually the tickets are very small.
Do a good job. Good.
Do you have an idea of the running total at any particular time of what's uncollected?
Right now, we have a total of $233,000, but with what we've actually taken in revenue, we collect about 87% of the ticket revenue.
Great, thank you.
Oh, so it's typically an 87%, so we're writing off roughly 13 a year.
About 13% go to the collection
And
agency.
what, those almost exclusively are what, non-residents, right, I would imagine? Because we can turn off their water.
We also talked about having aldermen go knock on doors if we haven't collected.
I have a sign up
needs
for
to
that if
accompany
you'd
me
like.
there.
With a
No,
large
it's a mixture
dog,
of
right?
residents and non-residents. The big tool that we lost in 2016, all of the collection agencies lost the ability to place unpaid parking and non-traffic citations on people's credit. And so we saw a fairly decent decline in collections from that point on.
Oh, okay, all right. As usual.
Was that a federal or a state law?
It was actually the settlement of a lawsuit of 31 attorneys general against all three credit agencies. So they settled in 2015, including Attorney General Madigan.
Any other questions on the omnibus agenda?
I just have a comment. I was just happy to see, when we got to the approval of the Forest Park Ground Maintenance Service Contract, that the provider will be using electric power motors and blowers. This was a topic that came up very timely, came up at our Public Works Committee meeting. And the fact that the electric blowers have a sound level of 56 as compared to the average gas-powered blower with a decibel level of 99 is very significant. And so kudos to that provider for switching over. Plus, the air pollution savings are very significant with this. So, the more that the city can be looking at vendors who can provide these kinds of services, I would encourage it, because I think it's a terrific thing to see.
Well, and relatedly, there are many tingling with anticipation for the staff response on how do we.
On the leaf blowers?
Leaf blowers.
We
so
worked on that.
We'll see, we'll see. Any other comments from council? If not, anyone in the audience wish to make any comments on these 10 items? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the 10 omnibus items as presented. Is there a second?
Second?
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Morris,
Aye.
Alderman Newman,
Aye.
Alderman Rommel,
Aye.
Alderman Tack,
Aye.
Alderman Moreno,
Aye.
Alderman Bushman.
Aye.
6 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. Next item of business are the new ordinances and new business, and we have none to discuss this evening. So the last item is for the council to adjourn to go into executive session. There will be no additional council business following this executive session, which is being held pursuant to state statutes in order to perform our annual review of executive session minutes mandated by the State Open Meetings Act, and we will also be discussing the disposition of property and the consideration for the sale or lease of property owned by a public body. So, is there a second to go into executive session?
Second?
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Morris,
Aye.
Alderman Newman,
Aye.
Alderman Rommel,
Aye.
Alderman Tack,
For the last time, aye.
not the last yet. Alderman Moreno,
Councilman Randy here.
Alderman
You're the
Bushman,
first half of the next.
Aye.
6 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Adjourned into executive session.